A lot of Bulls fans are asking and wondering, what is the plan for the Chicago Bulls? What are they going to do, if anything, at the trade deadline? Well, I got my guest Vaughn in today, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about and discuss what the Bulls should do at the trade deadline. And also, I'm probably sure we're going to get into why this team's so goddamn frustrating. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, hosted by Haize, your number one spot for all things Chicago Bulls.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. You already know me, but I got a guest in the building with me today. Haven't done a lot of guests so far this season. What's going on, Vaughn?
What's good, Haize, man? How's it going?
Bro, I'm hanging in there, man. I'm doing the best that I can, bro. Before we get started, go ahead and tell the people, man, about your podcast real quick so they can follow you and support you over there.
For sure, man. Well, you know, I got my little podcast here with my homies too, my homies Anthony and Day. It's called Hoops Legion. You can follow us at Hoops Legion Pod on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok for now. You know, they're trying to get rid of that. But you can find us on YouTube, of course. And I'm trying to get over there on Spotify and Apple Music, but I'm still figuring out all those little streaming services and stuff like that too.
Oh, you should have told me that. We can work on that. I can help you get over there ASAP, bro. It's like a couple of clicks. But I just put the link in the description. I mean, in the chat for anybody that wants to go check them out after this video is done. But we're here to discuss, man, what everybody's talking about with this Bulls team. I've come to the point now where I'd be more surprised if they did something. I'm no longer going to be surprised if they don't do anything. But you're the guest. I want to turn it over to you first. When you look at this team, what path do you think they should take at the trade? We'll talk about what they will do next. What do you think they should do at the trade deadline?
I've been one of those people that's kind of gone back and forth on what they should do, because I mean, the highs when they win, it just makes you feel so good. Like you're watching a win and everything feels good, you know, pop yourself a bottle or something like that and everything feel good. It feel like the team is right. Feel like they got the talent for it, and it feel like they can push towards, you know, some competitiveness. But losses that we've seen, you know, the last few days against the Pelicans and then the Hawks when they didn't have Trae Young and Jalen Johnson, it kind of forces me back into reality, which is, you know, this team to me, I'm just tired of it. You know, I'm tired of the living in two timelines thing, I guess. I kind of enjoy watching the young players play, and I do get frustrated when I don't see players like Matas Buzelis play, or Julian Phillips, or whoever you want to name that's 24 or younger, not getting the minutes that they should. So, you know, as much as I appreciate like Zach LaVine and Vooch for the efforts that they're putting together this season, I do think, you know, I don't want to make bad deals, but I think they need to be looking to try to get off of those players, you know, as soon as they can. And not necessarily just for the pick. I just want to see what we have in our young guys. I want to see what rotations look like with some of those guys starting now and actually getting starter level minutes, and just to see what they produce. So, you know, I'm in the middle, but overall, I think I would more likely lean towards seeing them move off the vet sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I've always attacked that part of it is that, you know, and you know, this is it's a layered conversation, because some people look at it and they'll automatically go to, well, Vooch and Zach are playing good, why would we want to trade them? And honestly, that's kind of the reason why they would want to trade them, because Vooch and Zach are playing at an all-star level, and we're still at the. Here's another thing that I want to throw out, right? Like, we say that we're in the middle of the pack, but we're in the middle of the pack because the NBA created the play-in.
Yeah,
because technically we're at the bottom. And I think that when you just put this in perspective real quick, part of the reason we traded Derrick Rose and we moved off of Jimmy Butler, because we were the 5th and the 6th seed. That was looked at as being middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We couldn't get above that. We couldn't get out the first round. Now we're calling a team that technically 5 years ago wouldn't even be in playoff contention, and we're calling that middle of the pack because the NBA created the play-in tournament. And I think when you take that perspective on it, it really makes the situation look a lot less promising than I think what some Bulls fans have started to think, because it's like, well, we're in the play-in, we could make it out the play-in, we could get into the first round. It's like, yeah, do you realize that's literally clawing your way to the first round? And I'm not blaming Vooch and Zach for where we are. That's the front office for the way that they built this team, right? But if we have talents, if it takes Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic to have all-star caliber seasons for us to just be the 10th seed, which a few years ago would mean out of the playoffs, to me, that's why you may look to reshuffle the deck. It's not that they're bad. It's not that they don't have promise. It's not that they don't, especially in Zach, he still has 5-6 years left being a high-level player, hopefully in the NBA. Yeah. But over that time, how can you really get out of where you are? And I think that's where I look at it at, and that's how I try to attack it. And so you might as well try to get assets back, right? And when you think about, we traded Jimmy Butler after almost winning a first-round playoff series, had Rondo not gotten hurt.
Oh, man.
I was saying, let's keep talent because we're clawing for the 10th seed. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, no, and it's funny you brought that that time up, because I remember being frustrated, thinking, damn, we're just in the middle, and that's an 8th seed. So now you're right, like 9, 10, even if you're 11 trying to get into that 10 spot, it's really just false hope. It kind of plays right into Jerry's hands, but hey, that's another story. But yeah, no, it's crazy. And I think one of the things that scared me the most is you mentioned how Zach and Vooch are playing such good basketball right now, and I don't think we expect a Zach decline or anything. I mean, he does rely heavily on his athleticism with a lot of his moves, but in terms of Vooch, I think that's the one that scares me the most, because I mean, all the other years he was here, you heard a lot of complaints from Bulls fans, or, just watching him yourself, you would think that he could do more. So the fact that he's having a season like this, it scares me to take that into the offseason or possibly next season and then try to move off of him. It just scares me, because AK always never seems to strike when the iron is hot, and I just want him to do that if possible. Like I said, I mean, it takes 2 teams to make a deal, of course, but I mean, if they have something there, like if it comes out later how it did with like Andre Drummond, where it's like, oh, they got 2-3 second round picks and they didn't take it, and something like that comes out for a good package for Vooch or Zach or something, I'm gonna be pissed. Honestly, I'm gonna be like, it's just another time that AK didn't strike when the iron is hot. So that's all I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important part of this too, because like Vooch is having a great season. For him, it's a great season. Like, the defensive stuff is always going to be there, right? But if, let's say that we go through this season and then we try to trade him at the next year's trade deadline when he's expiring, but what if he goes from having a 20-10 season to another 18-9 season, or 18-10 season, and doesn't look good, or takes a step back or gets hurt, like. And I don't want the Bulls to make a move just to make a move, but it is about being smart on how you take advantage of your assets. And I think that that's something that we've lacked for years, and that lack of vision has helped put us where we are right now, where we're like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, I agree.
So Bulls got to figure that out, man. You got to figure it out. So we've talked about what we think the Bulls should do. What do you think they will do? Because that could be a very, very different answer.
Listening to your last few episodes, you're starting to sway me to think it's not gonna be shit. we about to be sitting here. Everybody about to be going crazy on Twitter and all that, and you're gonna drop an emergency episode just saying I told you so. That's starting what it's seeming to feel like, but man, I really like. I'm still, I'm a hopeful Bulls fan. Like, I send the trades in that chat all the time. Like, I'm sitting there hoping that it's something. You feel me? I mean, at this point, I'm settling for at least get Torrey Craig. At least get maybe Lonzo. I'm a fan of Lonzo, so I don't really like saying this, but if there's something out there that you can get, maybe you look at that. When you start talking about Zach and Vooch, that's more of a direction change. So, I'm hopeful that Vooch is at least one of them, the people that they can get off. But, hope, man, they keep stabbing me every time I even give any type of hope to this team. I mean, I was the one that told you there's no way they lose all 4 of these next games, and they're already on their way to doing that. They're halfway there. So, man, it's tough. It's tough because we really came in we everybody was on, the AK train and all that stuff, and he came in, he did all those moves. So I'm hoping like maybe he has some of that left, but I really don't know. I'm gonna guess that they don't do anything because that's just what I've seen mostly.
I'm gonna do a peek behind. I've never told anybody this, never. So not last year, not the 2024 trade deadline, the 2023 trade deadline. Y'all can go and verify this. I got a video out literally right after the trade deadline ended. I wasn't live, but I recorded that earlier in the day that the Bulls did nothing at the trade deadline because that's how certain I was they weren't going to do anything, and just set it to go live. Like, because that's how certain I was that the Bulls weren't going to do anything. I'm starting to feel that way again. Like, it just, everything is pointing me to that direction that the Bulls aren't going to do anything. Now, I've been wrong on my feeling on that before, right? I felt like maybe the Bulls weren't going to trade anybody, and then they turned around and traded Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey, right? Like, I was in the midst of feeling like nothing may really happen that offseason before that happened. So, they've surprised me before. We haven't made an in-season trade since 2021, I believe. So we're going on 4 years almost since an in-season trade happened. But and again, it's this to say that to your point, like, too, I'm not saying Vooch or Zach, but like Torrey Craig is somebody who's not in your rotation. He's not. Yeah. Do I think he could help? Yeah, but he's not in. Even before he got hurt, he wasn't really in the rotations till he suffered injuries. If you can't move Torrey Craig at least for a second, my question then is that you're just not trying at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, even when Mahorn just made a point how he's injured, so it's possible that affects some trade chatter for him. Because I mean, it took a while for them to even give us the initial report, right? I believe,
Yeah.
like, I mean, he was just kind of out, and then all of a sudden, like a week later, they were like, "Oh yeah, he's out for 2 more weeks with his injury." So even that was a little odd. But what do you think about Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu possibly being pivots if they can't move a Zach? Like, what if they go that route? Do you think that's possible? And would you even want to see that?
I do think it's possible. I came into the season thinking there's no way they trade Kobe. There's no way they trade Ayo. I do think that is possible because I can see this front office getting desperate to just want to do something. I do think that that's the wrong path. I think at this point now you've hurt their trade value. Kobe White's trade value has been hurt. He hasn't really had the best season overall. Like, his numbers look very similar to last year, but like I think that if they would have moved him last year in the offseason, they would have gotten a lot more back. Now that trying to play him next to Josh Giddey, and how that just hasn't really worked. You force him kind of out of the way that he likes to play for so long. I think that his value's down. Ayo's been hurt for so long. I think his value's down. So I do think it's possible that they move those guys. But my question then would be, what are you getting back? Because if you move your young pieces on good contracts, to me, that means you're making a win now move, not an asset move. But maybe they can still make an asset move in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably crashing out if they move either one of those two. I'd be pretty pissed. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I just don't want to see it. I know Kobe has had his ups and downs, like you said. It could just be role. I know, he's better at getting his rhythm when he drives to the basket and stuff, and he's kind of been turned more into a jump shooter. But, I just that's where I really want to see the vets move, because I just want to see people put in their right roles. And it seems so many times throughout the years they just haven't. Players have come in here and not played their right roles. I mean, Javonte Green was playing the 4, which he was really good at, but he was playing the 4 a lot. Or you have Zach down at the 3, which he's doing good at too. But there's just it puts everybody in different positions to where everything doesn't seem to fit as fluidly, and it seems like the front office keeps doing this. So that's really my biggest thing, is I just want to see trades so pieces make sense, because we got talent, but none of it seems to fit seamlessly, and that's, to me, the biggest problem that I'm seeing, and that's probably on coaching too, of course.
That's a fact. It is definitely. I mean, coaching plays a part in this too. Like, and maybe I should talk about that more, but I've just reached the point where I just don't believe that they're going to move off Billy Donovan anytime soon. Like, at this point, like, Billy Donovan is like Jerry Reinsdorf's second son at this point.
Yeah, man.
What? Found what? Oh, okay. All right, just put it upstairs. Where's the battery for it? Don't worry about it. Well, I ordered some. They'll come tomorrow. Always with the most random shit, kids, bro. But yeah, I mean, so I just this front office, I've learned to not assume anything good, and definitely the bad. I kind of brace myself for, but we'll see, because that would be the type of move that happens this year too. It would be like the Bulls trade Kobe White, and then they get like a heavily protected first. It's like that's what we did.
Nah, don't say that.
I,
Don't say
I
that.
don't want to see that happen. And Billy Donovan, I think that the best chance we have to get rid of Billy Donovan and as being the head coach is him going to the front office. That's just firmly what I believe. I don't think Billy Donovan's gonna. He has a position here with the Bulls as long as he wants at this point.
Trade Billy Donovan for a bagel from Dunkin'. That's how they feeling.
If you gonna get a bagel from Dunkin' instead of a donut from Dunkin', that's bad, bro. Like Dunkin' Donuts bagels are dry as a motherfucker. Like, nah, bro.
He gonna be in that race that they do every game. They got to demote Brody to that. but nah, I really, they're not moving off him for sure. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. You mentioned Lonzo, right? You said you don't want to see Lonzo move. That is, I think, at this point, I think that may be the biggest move that they may do at the trade deadline. If they can find a taker for Lonzo now that Lonzo is looking, for the most part, like Lonzo, still on the minutes restriction. He's still, hot and cold shooting so far, even though he's been a lot hotter shooting lately here than not. What percentage would you put it at that Lonzo gets moved?
Probably 50-50. Because part of me believes that there should be takers out there. But it's hard to say because I don't know what direction they want to go. Like, to me, if they want to stay competitive, then Lonzo seems like the type of player that you keep, especially if he comes back on a, maybe he comes back on a deal where it has injury clauses and it's way less money than what it is now. Then it's like, I mean, I wouldn't be complaining, but this team does have a lot of guards, and there's always a possibility that Lonzo doesn't want to stay. Maybe he wants to go play with his brother or something like that, or maybe he wants to go somewhere else where they're a little bit more competitive. So I'm gonna say it's 50-50, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did get 2 second rounders or whatever they're looking for Lonzo, and they still say no. Like, I'm not sure. He almost feels like he's in that Drummond role where it's like you feel like you can get something for him, but like what do they actually want to do? So I'm not sure. I would hate to see it, of course, because I was such a big fan of Lonzo back when we drafted Lauri Markkanen. I think that was the same draft. So it would suck, but after all his injury history and the direction at least we want them to go, it would feel like you want to get as much assets as possible. And I know the Bulls don't seem to value the second rounders as much, but I mean, that's stuff you can sprinkle in other trades and get more value from if you do want to move off other people. Like if you want to move off Javon Carter, maybe you can throw in a second now. Like, so yeah, I'll say 50-50 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I just, like you said, because last year at the trade deadline, it seemed all but a perfect situation to move off of Drummond, and they didn't do it, right? Like, it really comes down to, I think, again, how delusion is AK by competing for the 10th seed in the play-in tournament, right? Like last year, we didn't want to make any moves because we were competing, right? And that's why, reportedly why they didn't want to move Drummond, why they didn't think to move DeMar DeRozan at the trade deadline when he had value. And considering we're basically in the same exact spot, reason would give you that they're probably going to have the same mindset unless something's really changed, and they're just going to hold on to all their pieces because they want to stay, quote unquote, competitive, right? Coming into the season, the young players, the development there was one of the biggest kind of storylines and expectations for the season. How do you feel Dalen, Julian, Matas Buzelis? I'm leaving out Kobe and Ayo because they already had a big part of the rotation. They still have a big part of the rotation. But those 3 guys, how do you feel that their development has been handled this season?
Very up and down. Billy does play a deep rotation. So there's been games where they've got a little bit more minutes than usual. There's been games where we're sitting there wondering why they didn't get the minutes. I think it's been good to see them out there. I've seen some promising stuff from all 3 of those players, ups and downs with their play as well. But I want to see more. Like, it's tough for me to sit here and say, that any of them should be getting like starter level minutes or anything, because I still feel like I haven't seen enough. But there is development. Like, I mean, it feels, I don't know the exact percentage off the top of my head, but it feels like Dalen hits that corner three a little bit more consistently. Matas has that dog in him where it seems like he attacks more, which is why a lot of people like him more than Patrick Williams. And then Julian Phillips, I mean, we were watching him last game getting put back dunks. That corner three was looking money earlier in the season. His activity. So, I do like seeing that, and I feel like there's a lot more to be unlocked if Billy just gives them the damn minutes. But I understand, he has vets in the way. He has clearly some type of rotational players that he has to keep firmly in the rotation. I think part of the reason you don't see as many lineup changes is because there's just certain players that I feel like wouldn't be happy with getting their role reduced or not starting or stuff like that. So that's just my own, thinking right there. But I do question times where THT is playing and he's playing like absolute dog shit. And I'm sitting there wondering, like, can we get modest minutes right here? Like, I mean, there's times I question stuff like that. I mean, anytime Javon Carter's out there, I'm questioning that. So I really just want to see more from Billy, making young players more. But overall, the development has been good, but I definitely need to see more. I just have to.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like all these guys in their own respective area have shown like when you give them more minutes, they kind of learn from their mistakes fast, especially Matas. Like that's why like you see the people calling for Matas Buzelis. Like, yeah, he makes mistakes. He makes some mistakes that even some rookies drafted where he has shouldn't be making. But when you see him get that opportunity where he's not pulled and he kind of understands that, hey, I'm going to be out here for a while, he plays better. Now, I looked it up real quick when you brought up Dalen Terry shooting because I had never even thought to look at the chart. So Dalen Terry last year, if you want to take a guess at what percentage he hit above the break in corner threes at last year.
I'm gonna go with 29%.
The average between the two is about that. So last year he hit above the break threes at 15%, and he hit corner threes at 32%. This year, it's actually taken a nice step up, especially on above the break threes, the frequency and the amount. He's hitting the above the break threes at almost 30%, 29.6%. And corner threes, Dalen Terry's actually hitting corner threes at 38.9%. That's decent.
It seems like that. Yeah. It seems like that. I feel like I've seen him hit a bunch of corner threes that have just been kicked out to him. When before last season, I'm like, oh, hell no. And then this year, it actually seems to go in. So that sounds right.
Yeah, and I mean, so the reps, like, is Dalen Terry ever going to turn into like some knockout shooter? No, it doesn't seem like that. We haven't seen that, but at least he's making strides in that area. Because I remember last year, so many people that was like, Dalen Terry doesn't even look like an NBA player. Now he does look like an NBA player. Now he still doesn't look like necessarily the best or greatest. He still looks like role player, but it's nice to see that progression that he's starting to make in what he wants to do. So.
Yeah, agreed. Same for everybody. I definitely haven't been wowed by any three of those players. But with the way Patrick been playing, I'm starting to wonder maybe them boys do need to get a little bit more run. maybe one of them needs to. I don't want to say start because but I'm not gonna go that far. But maybe we need to start looking into a little bit more switch ups with that.
I think this is that, Billy Donovan, I talked about on today's show, he came out and he said there's been no thought right now to bench Patrick Williams. And I just don't know how much longer you can say that. I just don't know. Like, I'm not saying that Julian Phillips has necessarily looked head and shoulders above Patrick Williams, but one thing that I do know is that I feel it when Julian is on the court. Like, Julian actually cuts to the rim. Julian does those type of things. Is he the on-ball defender that Patrick Williams has been over his career? No. I mean, even though Patrick Williams taken a huge step back defensively this year. But I just think when you have guys, and especially like Matas Buzelis, like, you can only hold off those guys so long because of the mentality that they have. And that's the thing that holds P. Will back so much. It's just the mentality. Like, I really do feel like P. Will has the gifts to be a solid starter in the NBA.
Yeah.
But the passive nature that he brings is like that potential don't really do shit if you're not doing nothing with it.
I'll tell you this, like, listen, if he gets through this whole season and stuff stays the way it's going with him, there's already no excuses for him really for a lot of fans, but
Mhm.
this could be the season where the front office now is going to be like, look, bro, we let you run all season. This is what you gave us, because I guarantee next year after Matas gets a full offseason to training, I just don't think someone like him is going to stay down too long. Like, I think I know it's his own teammate, but I mean, people are competitive. I know he probably smells the blood. Like, bro wants to be a starter in this league, and I feel like he's gonna, take every opportunity to do that. And who knows, once training camp comes next season, we could be hearing about how Modest is looking amazing and priming for that starting spot. So maybe they're just giving Pat all this time to figure this shit out. But sooner or later, someone like Billy, you're gonna have to put your foot down, because I mean, it's the NBA, and if you're putting up, what was the stats they just put on the screen yesterday? I think it was like 6.3 points on like 30% shooting or something over the past
Mhm.
however many games. So stuff like that can't continue. I don't know if the foot's still bothering him or whatever, but at the end of the day, I don't even want to blame that, because Pat has always just been this 9-10 points per game player. So and it's not even just the points, like you said, it's the activity and all that too. I mean, we love Javonte Green. Nobody was looking at how many points he scored. They were looking at him hustling for the loose balls, like we just saw him do when he was on the Pelicans, or we were looking
Yeah.
at him hitting timely threes, even when he's not even known as a shooter, getting put back dunks, catching oops, getting rebounds. I mean, that's the type of stuff that Bulls fans love. We've seen it since the time that we had Taj Gibson or Joakim Noah and players like that we've fallen in love with. Who else? I mean, CJ Watson was pretty scrappy, I feel like. I mean, there's just been players that have come
Yeah.
through that Bulls fans love. So, some people are hard on Pat because he's the fourth pick and they're like he averages 10 points. But me personally, I just want to see the effort for him, because I already know that he's not high in the pecking order when it comes to like getting play calls for him. He's probably not getting any plays called for him, but he can still do those hustle plays. I mean, that's what Bulls fans love. That's the grit and grind. That's the type of players that we fall in love with.
Yeah, I mean, just him going after rebounds, putbacks, things like that. Like, yeah, he's not gonna all of a sudden switch and be this guy that's getting a bunch of plays called for him. That's just not gonna happen on with the makeup of this team. But he is a guy that, if he uses the natural gifts that he has and just has that dog mentality, which not everybody has. That's why it is a special thing when you see it. But if he had that, like Patrick Williams could easily get 12, 13 points just off the shots that he does get at almost 8 per game, and if he was just had that mentality. So, but at some point you got to stop wishing something for somebody and just realize it's
Yeah.
just not coming. So
Yeah. At this point, it is what it is with Pat. I'm sad because honestly, I want to see all these players succeed, especially the young players on this team. So I hope he figures it out. Whatever figures it out means for Patrick Williams, I hope he reaches that, because right now I'm not a fan of it.
yeah, and I think the thing is that people always try to make the conversation like, and I would listen. I've been one of the. This is the first year that I've completely switched up on Patrick Williams, and the thing to me that was the biggest part of the switch is seeing that his defense just isn't good anymore. Like, we can make the conversation that Patrick Williams is in the starting lineup for defense all day long, but when you're allowing your opponents to shoot 60% against you when you're guarding them on one-on-one situations, what defense are you providing at that point, right? That's not even in the team defense aspect. That's not when you're getting switched on to players. That's not when you're rotating or your help defense. We're talking about when you're guarding your guy one-on-one, you're allowing them to shoot at almost 60%. See, that puts him in not just the bottom third of the team. We're talking about the bottom third of the league. So technically what we're looking at, and then when I saw his opponents as well, Patrick Williams' opponents that he's guarding are shooting 2% better when he's guarding them than their averages. Every other season that Patrick Williams has guarded somebody, on average, they've shot worse than what they've done in their season averages. Now, it's been like 0.06 some seasons. It was like 1.5 as high as one season. I think that was his rookie year. But so when you're taking away that defensive aspect, at that point, all you can go off of is mentality, because he's not being a good defender anymore. So when you look at Matas Buzelis and his rim protection, you can easily make a conversation right now if you wanted to. I'm not saying that Matas should start right now, but as we get closer and closer to that time, somebody can make the conversation of, well, maybe Matas isn't as good as one-on-one defender as P. Will, but that shot blocking and that rim protection, we can use that.
Yeah. Matas kind of flashes some of the things people were saying Patrick had when he came into this team, with his weak side shot blocking, some of the playmaking. We've seen Matas do all of that, plus the dog. So it's kind of it's kind of crazy. But yeah, man, I don't know, man. I'm with you. This is the first year. I'm probably not as far as you in terms of giving up or not giving up on P. Will, but not really worrying about P. Will that much because I'm a Bulls fan that always keeps that little sliver of hope. Like I'm just hoping that it's something. Like now in the back of my mind, I'm saying maybe it is the foot, but I'm not gonna say it out loud, even though I just did. But that's the type of stuff that I'm thinking. But when I'm watching that game, hey, you can ask anybody else around me. I'm over there screaming at the TV when it's Patrick. Like, what the fuck is what is bro doing right now? So yeah, definitely I've been more frustrated with him this season than ever.
This has been the season that it really got to me the most, man. But we'll see what the front office has in store. Maybe it is the foot. I'm just worried that P. Will is going to be this generation's Tyrese Thomas. And I don't mean that they're the same player, but I mean in the sense that per where they were drafted at, and when you constantly look at who they could have had instead of Tyrese Thomas and LaMarcus Aldridge and Tyrese Halliburton instead of Patrick Williams in this case, it's just I hope that at some point we're talking about P. Will turning it around is all I can say.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hey, maybe like you brought up before, maybe that'll lead us to nah, I ain't gonna say that. Because last time you said the mess up pick that they had led us to Derrick Rose. So
yeah,
maybe that's in our future card since we screwed up this pick, but I don't know. Like that draft was so weak to me anyways. I know Tyrese Halliburton was the guy, but did he go like 14th? I mean, he went pretty far.
I mean, a lot of people passed up on Halliburton.
So. Yeah, so I mean, who knows, man.
We'll see. Any last thoughts, Brody, before we get up out of here?
Nah, man. I mean, I'm just Bulls fan here, hoping that they do something, praying that they do something, not just anything, something good on the trade market. I better not see anything like Vooch going for 1 second round pick or no bullshit like that. But I do hope that they make some moves here and actually I just want to see a vision, man. And I'm not going to get too crazy and wish for things like Billy getting fired, even though I would like that because I feel like that stuff's not going to happen. But I just want to see better from this team, and I don't want any one player to fail on this team. I just want them to fit correctly, and I want the front office to actually have a vision with what they want to do. So hopefully by the time we get to the trade deadline, you can come on your pod and say that you were wrong. I would more likely hope to hear that you were wrong and they did make some moves. And I'm sure you would like to hear that too if the moves were actually good. So yeah, that's all I'm hoping for, man. I'm just a Bulls fan that wants to see better. That's all.
That's it. And I just want to see direction at this point. If we are just clearly make a move to go to the direction where there's development, competing now, whatever it is, I'd be happy with that. And then we see what the result ends up being. But like right now, this living in two worlds thing, like hell, it didn't even work for a team like the Warriors. I mean, I guess you could say it did because they got a title out of it, but look at where they are now. Living in two worlds very rarely works. It's a very, very thin needle you got to thread if you're gonna try to do that. And AK and Eversley have just not executed it well. So
yeah, and at least the Warriors have a championship pedigree to stand on behind that. We just standing on shit.
We stand in our business, but unfortunately our business is shit.
So yeah, man.
That's a fact. Man. Y'all make sure y'all go and support Vaughn over at Hoops Legion, man. I put the link in the chat, so y'all make sure y'all go and support him. They do good work, great work over there with covering the NBA, man. And also, hey, I gotta give credit where credit's due, bro. From one creator to another, y'all thumbnails are fucking fire, bro. I'm not even gonna hold you, bro.
Appreciate that,
man. Those thumbnails is goddamn. The Derrick Rose one made my Derrick Rose, and I was like, damn, shit.
That was my favorite one.
That was a fire thumbnail, bro. I'm not even gonna hold you on that one.
Appreciate
it. But y'all can follow us, man, at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, 773-270-2799, the number one spot